Hey guys, here today to talk about some nutrients. I get asked a lot of times what's the best nutrient for me and what's going to be the best, is what I hear all the time. From my experience, it's how you use these nutrients. Now, if you're looking for a better tasting flowers, better aromatics there, more of a boutique flower, organics are always the way to go. It's that natural minerals that make your plants just taste spectacular. On the other side, if you're looking for yields, synthetics are always the way to go. Those nutrients are synthetic salts, but they're readily available to your plants. If you're seeing any type of deficiencies or anything like that, it'll fix that problem faster than the organics will. You will get an increase in yields, I'd say by 10-15% increase in yields, but that final flower is, when it's combusted, you can taste the salts in it, especially if you're an experienced user, you can taste it in there. Now, I kind of wanted to go over the different ones that we've got. So I've got this Terp Tea, fantastic product. I've actually been using it on some of my outdoor grows, and I've got great success out of it. It's literally a 1-part soluble organic nutrient. Like one of the few things, I haven't seen many soluble organics. You can get by with just top dressing these things. I use a tablespoon per gallon in each water that I make up. It's loaded with your micronutrients, your macronutrients. It has beneficials in it, high in calcium, which I really like, especially this flower here. Like if you're just looking for simplicity. I know a lot of newer growers, like you just want something that's, hey, what can I do to get a successful grow out of there? In my opinion, these two are probably the best ones to use to get a good yield, still good taste in flowers, good aromatics with it as well. Even the terpene profiles are really nice with these. Now the difference is, I wanted to show this to you. So these are organic as well. It has your alfalfa meals, your back guanos, your compost. It's got everything in these, but these are a larger size particles. They typically take anywhere from 14 to 21 days to break down to be available for your plants. Using this, I use this in just my regular garden. My tomatoes love it, peppers love it. Now I will go out every 2 weeks and I just use a handful. I mean, there's directions on the back that tell you how to do it. I've never overdone it by just using a handful on my tomato plants. Cannabis hemp plants are a little bit different. Now I usually would use about a half of a cup per gallon of soil that I'm there. And honestly, I don't like using these for my cannabis plants just because of the fact that you're not in control on how fast these are going to break down. If any organics that I'm going to use, I'm going to go this route right here. Water soluble. You can check. Nice thing is you can even check your ppms. That's another thing that we'll get into in future videos is pH matters, parts per million matter. Like everything, to be a better grower, you need good tools for the trade. Your parts per million meters are awesome, and so are the pH meters. But today I just want to really just go into on our nutrient sides. Now I've got liquids as well. I prefer the Roots Organics. I mean, there's other companies out there that they work well. I get the best results out of this. These are their base nutrients. You've got to grow and a bloom. Now they have a lot of additives as well. I do pick and choose some of those because some of them have more carbohydrates. There's some that have nitrogen fixing bacterias and nutrients in those as well. One thing I have noticed, you need a pH meter for these. These are CADF certified, which means it's a California standard. It is a more stringent test to get certified. This company doesn't put any preservatives, anything like that in there, but what they'll do is they'll drop the pH so it's super low. When I measure my pH in these, I'm usually at like 4.0. I will use an up. I have different options for ups. I mean, there's potassium hydroxide is your traditional up. I do prefer some of the organic ups. There's some that have calcium carbonate or more liquefied lime, especially if you're trying to say 100% organic. That's definitely the way to go. Some of the other ones we've got some synthetics. Now GH's been around forever. 3 parts, I like 3 parts a little bit more just because of the fact that you can sit there and fine tune those. And, let's say you get into flower and you're really starting to see a phosphorus or a potassium deficiency, or you really want to beef those up, you add more of your bloom. Micro deficiencies, this has everything from copper, zinc, manganese, molybdenum, boron, everything you can think of. Now if you pick up trace deficiencies, you add a little bit more of this and it's going to fix that problem. Now the only thing with these 3 parts is you have to use all 3 of these together. I mean, it's made to be, the micro always goes in first, that you hit your micros, and depending on where in veg or flower you're in, you're going to use more of the grow, more of the bloom. Again, with synthetic salts, you're going to taste it. I mean, you can flush these things out really well, especially using an SLF, one of my favorite rinsing flushing agents that's out there. It's an enzymatic formula. So what this stuff does is it'll break down the salts that are in there, also helps to break down dead root material, and then it allows you to flush all of those salts out of your plants. I ran into an issue with one of my drain to waste systems that checking the runoff, I was at close to 5,000. I used some of that at 5 mils a gallon. I took a 5-gallon bucket and flushed out 4 plants. After I was completely done flushing, we were close to 600 ppms, which was perfect. That way I didn't really have to change the regimen of how we're feeding. So we get those salts, you get those out of there. So that's something great to use with any synthetics, especially GH. Canna's another good product that I really like. It's got, their nutrients are designed to go with what media that you're growing in. They've got their Terra Vega, Terra Flores as if you're in amended soils. They have some of their aqua line, which they've got a 2-part veg, a 2-part flower. They've got their own cocoa line. They have another one if you're just growing in ProMix. So this company, I love their base nutrients because they design them for what growing media that you're growing in. But still, even using synthetics, even though this isn't as salty, I still like to give it a good flush towards, the last 2-3 weeks of flower. And if you're starting to see problems during that growth, you can always check your runoff water, which what I do is I'll take 6.0 water, and I like to use RO water, so I'll go in with just enough calcium at about 100 ppms, flush that stuff out, and keep checking that runoff water until, to check it, you run it until there's water there. Then take your ppm meter, your pH meter, check to see where you are. If you're high ppms, it's time to do a really good flush. If you're low, if it's close to 400 or 500, you might be seeing deficiencies, so that might be a time to increase what nutrient levels that you're using. Microbes I like to talk about and use. I've got this recharge works really well. It's close to like the Great White. They have close to the same microbes in there, except for there's a couple different ones in the recharge than what I've seen in the Great White. One of the new products we got is that fish shit, and that stuff is amazing. As you can see, these girls are just standing up. I've been using this stuff for about 3 weeks now, and I've seen the most vigorous growth out of my plants, especially when you see your leaves spraying. You know that they are happy and they're healthy. It's got close to like 4,000 beneficials in it, which is all in a liquid form, so my plants can instantly take them up a lot faster. One more thing I like to talk about is bloom boosters. We've got different options on the bloom boosters. I've got the Big Bud and the Beastie Blooms, but you can tell they're just high salts. That higher phosphorus, the higher potassiums that's there, is going to increase the density of the flowers and the size of those flowers. So it will help you to get an increase in yields, but again, it's on that salt side. Make sure you flush those things out properly because you will taste those in the final product. So I guess my conclusion is today is I like my organics. That by far in any type of soil system is going to be your best tasting, the best aromatic flowers. That's how you create that boutique flower, is either build your soils or completely use 100% organic nutrients. I can get the same results with the liquids. The liquids, I feel like I have more hands-on with my plants because they've got 7 different bottles that each one will fix something. But again, simplicity, you cannot go wrong with their Terp Teas. The Fox Farm's good stuff too. They do have their concentrated compost tea. That's what that Big Bloom is. I know a lot of people like to think that it's for flower. It's made for vegetative growth up until like the 2nd or 3rd week of flower. Yeah, and the other products that I do like from this was that Aqua Vega. I like to use that in my drain to waste, but we also have some Floraflex. They have a complete powdered nutrient that I feel like in a hydro system or a drain to waste system is probably one of the better ones that are out there. That's the one that we're using over there in the full Floraflex setup with the Photon Tech Lite. You can see the weekly updates with that and how they're growing and how happy they are. But like I said, my takedown is organics, hands down, best taste, best aromas.